Good day, students of economics. My name is Chick Kelly. Welcome to this introductory video. The purpose of this intellectual engagement is to demonstrate how and why economists have a unique perspective on the world. The title says it all. Do you think like an economist? We will accomplish this task of explaining how and why economists have a unique perspective on the world by evaluating 10 statements. On this slide, there are 10 statements. Your job is to determine whether each statement is true or false, but more important than just true or false, offer some logic, some reasoning, some economic rationale behind your answers. So after you read all 10 statements, pause the video, engage in the analysis, and after you have completed your analysis of the 10 statements, move forward as the remainder of this engagement explains how and why economists have a unique perspective on the world. Welcome back. Assuming you completed your analysis of the 10 statements, have determined whether each statement is false or true, and have developed some economic reasoning or logic for your answers, let's evaluate your performance. These 10 statements introduce economic principles and concepts in pairs. The first two statements deal with the economic concept of scarcity. Statements 3 and 4 introduce students to an important economic idea, opportunity cost. Statements 5 and 6 reveal something about markets, demand and supply, and the rationing function of prices. Statements 7 and 8 explain why economists are proponents of voluntary trade and the powerful concept of comparative advantage. Statements 9 and 10 are broad introductions to economic thinking as it relates to the world of business and some basic ideas introduced by the father of economics, Adam Smith. Let's start our analysis with good old statement 1. Because it is desirable, sunshine is scarce. The economist has a specific connotation of the term scarcity. For an economist, a good, a service, a resource, any entity on earth is scarce if and only if it is both desirable and limited. For something to be considered scarce by an economist, it must have both of these characteristics. What about sunshine? There's no doubt that sunshine is desirable. The last time I checked, most human beings enjoy a sunny day, whether it's at the beach, the park, in the mountains. Sun, after it travels 8 minutes from 93 million miles away, can be converted to energy using solar panels. Sun is absorbed by green plants, and the process of photosynthesis transforms carbon dioxide into oxygen, providing the perfect level of 21% atmospheric oxygen, which is vitally necessary for all us mammals. So there's no doubt that sunshine is desirable. However, is sunshine scarce? Well, in economic terms, it's virtually unlimited. It is what we call a free good. If you do not live to be 2 billion years old, which I don't think any of us will, even through cryogenics, it is highly unlikely you see the end of the sun. So in economic terms, it's not considered scarce because, yes, it's desirable, but no, it's not limited. What about statement number 2? Because it is limited, polio is scarce. Well, if you ask the average everyday person in a modern industrialized country, is polio scarce? They would say yes, it used to ravage people, especially young people, and for whatever reason, it reared its ugly head in the spring of most years. But then along comes Jonas Salk, and his genius offers humanity a solution to this horrific plague. And because of the vaccination, most people now do not have to deal with polio. But the economist says polio is not scarce because it only fulfills one of the two characteristics. Polio is limited, but obviously it is not desirable, so therefore statement 2 is false as well. It is the time in our intellectual engagement when I disappoint several students by revealing a secret. All 10 statements are false. If you answered true, you answered incorrectly. However, perhaps your logic was along the lines of economic thinking. More important than true and false is the economic rationale for the answers. And 3 and 4, statements 3 and 4, introduce students to one of the most important economic principles, opportunity cost. There is a saying in economics, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Opportunity cost refers to the next best alternative. What one must forego whenever they make a decision. There is always a cost involved. So for instance, if you are spending time watching this video and listening to the economic instruction, you can't simultaneously be listening to an audiobook or a podcast. So this idea, there is always a cost, and the cost is measured by the next best alternative, what one must forego or give up whenever they make a decision, is vitally important to economic thinking. Let's evaluate statement number 3. The main cost of having children is the money parents spend on them for food, shelter, education, and other things. Obviously, the cost of raising children is astronomical, but what is the real cost of having children? What is the best alternative or next best alternative that one forgoes when they have a child? Ask anyone who has children. The principal thing that people give up is time. Children are a 24/7, 365 job, right? So the main cost of having a child is not the food, the shelter, the education, the price tag of all those necessities. It's the time one forfeits to raise a child. But this raises an important economic observation. If there is a cost to having a child, there must be a cost to not having a child. Anyone who does not have a child of their own does not get to experience the unique and absolutely amazing interactions with another human being. The birth of your child, the first time your kitty kid talks and walks, and ballet recital, and graduation from kindergarten, and watching them grow from 5 to 15 to 25, and then their marriage and such. So there is always a cost. Now, statement number 4. The main cost of going to college is tuition, room, and board. For those of you who are currently paying for school, you are probably saying this is true. Tuition is no joke. But we're going to use some numerical explanation to explain why this statement is false from the economics perspective using the principle of opportunity cost. To explain the economic concept of opportunity cost as it relates to attending college, we'll introduce the anecdote of 2 young men, Tom and John, who both graduated from the high school right down the street from my childhood home, Norristown High School, in 1994. Likewise, we will assume that John attends St. Joseph's University, and St. Joseph's University tuition, room, and board cost $25,000. We will assume that the price tag doesn't increase over his 4 years while he's achieving or attaining his undergraduate degree. Tom, without any real work experience, he gets a job loading trucks at UPS. And for simplicity, again, we will assume that Tom's after-tax annual salary or disposable income is $25,000. The first question, how much did it cost John to attain his undergraduate degree? The non-economist, maybe the accountant, looks at the numbers and says 25 plus 25 plus 25 plus 25, 4 years of tuition, room, and board. It cost John $100,000 for that undergraduate St. Joseph's University degree. But the economist says, wait, you must consider not just the price tag, the opportunity cost, the next best alternative. What could John have been doing with his time, efforts, and energy? Well, he could have been doing the same thing as Buddy Tom is doing. He could have been working. So that foregone salary, the next best alternative, must be considered. Right? Tom is making $25,000 annually each year, right, after tax disposable income. So John foregoes $100,000 in salary while he's in school. So the real cost, the true cost after considering opportunity cost of going to college is not just the $100,000 in tuition, room, and board over 4 years. It's the additional $100,000 of foregone salary. That really changes the perspective of going to college. Likewise, what is Tom gaining while John is in school? Tom is gaining valuable work experience. He's building his occupational resume. Perhaps down the road he can move into a management position. He's learning responsibility. He understands that unlike college where you can just skip class when you want, you can't do that when you have a boss who's depending on you to show up on Friday morning. There's repercussions for being irresponsible. So that's not a monetary opportunity cost, but it's something to consider. What was the lesson about opportunity cost? There is always a cost. So if there's a cost for John for going to college, there obviously must be a cost for Tom for not going to college. What is the opportunity cost of Tom for not attending university and getting his undergraduate degree? Plato says the unexamined life is not worth living. Education in and of itself enhances our understanding of who we are and the world around us. You can't put a monetary value on education, but the lessons are valuable to John and his development as a human being. You ask most people, why would you go to college? The obvious answer is, I enhance my occupational opportunities down the road. So yes, by getting that college degree, John should have good earning power moving forward. Notice at the end of this slide it says 2008 ? We will reconsider this idea momentarily. But what else does John experience that Tom forfeits? When Tom's not at school, what are the cool things that John gets to do? Well, he builds a network. He has this new social circle of intelligent individuals who may be connected and could truly enhance his occupational opportunities moving forward. Heck, he could meet his significant other while at school. He's learning to deal with life being out on his own, right? So there's many things to consider when calculating opportunity cost. But now let's consider 10 years down the road. What will be the earning power of Tom versus the earning power of John 10 years after John graduates from St. Joe's University, 4 years after Tom started working at UPS. 10 years down the road, John's investment in education is paying off. John is earning $78,000. His high school diploma buddy, Tom, is only earning after-tax income of $37,000. This analysis reflects the real world. On average, college graduates earn twice as much as their high school diploma counterparts. However, an important caveat: the earning power of college graduates highly correlates to undergraduate degree of study or major. Some majors such as gender studies, sociology, philosophy, theology, English, arts are rather poor paying degrees, whereas econ, finance, engineering, nursing, those college degrees are typically rewarding in terms of financial salary after graduation. Let's introduce one more individual into the equation to emphasize an important economic idea. We'll call this young man Tiger. We will assume that this young man Tiger excels athletically in a sport, I don't know, we'll say golf. And because of his golf athletic ability, He is offered a full ride scholarship, tuition room and board, even books, to the illustrious Stanford University, sometimes called the Ivy of the West. He goes out to Stanford for his first and second year. He achieves all A's and B's in his classes, so he's paying nothing for school and performing well academically, but he's considering leaving university after 2 years. Is this a wise idea or a unwise idea, reflecting on the economic concept of opportunity cost? The opportunity cost for Mr. Tiger Woods remaining at Stanford University just one more year was astronomical. Tiger attended university at a time when amateur athletes were forbidden from earning $1 for their athletic prowess, their image, and likeness. If Tiger wanted to continue playing golf in college, he had to retain his amateur status. Once Tiger Woods announced he was entering the pro ranks, he could win golf tournaments, which he went on to win lots of them eventually. But the real money, especially early in his career, was sponsorships and endorsements. $60 million. I'm not sure that's the exact number, but somewhere near that, Tiger Woods earned from leaving school early. What's the economic lessons is that individuals in seemingly similar situations have much different opportunity costs. Bill Gates left Harvard early. Why? He had this idea to start a business. How did that work out? Well, he's one of the most wealthy individuals on planet Earth. The opportunity cost at remaining even one more year at the illustrious Harvard University was astronomical for Bill Gates. So individuals in seemingly similar situations have different opportunity costs based on their particular skills and situation. Statements 1 and 2 introduced us to the concept of scarcity. Statements 3 and 4 discussed the important idea of opportunity cost. Statements 5 and 6 explain the economics of markets, demand and supply, and what Adam Smith referred to as the rationing function of prices in his famous work, The Wealth of Nations, published in 1776, the Bible of economic thinking. The main cost of, if mass transportation fares are raised, almost everyone will take trains anyway. Statement number 5. What one word in this statement does the non-economist misinterpret or not fully understand? It is the word fare. When most people think about the term fare, they immediately think, what is the price tag of getting on the train or the bus, of riding public transportation? And you think, okay, the bus or the train, it gets me to work or where I need to be on time and efficiently. The price goes up from $1 per day to $2 per day. I'll just acquiesce and pay the 100% increase in the quote-unquote fare. 100% increase seems pretty hefty, but if the public transportation is doing an acceptable job, so be it. The non-economist doesn't understand that fare can refer to many costs. Perhaps riding the train has become a miserable experience. Perhaps the bus is a miserable experience. If public transportation is overcrowded and or filthy dirty, people will decide that transportation in the automobile is preferred. Even though they have to pay for gasoline, they have to look for and pay for parking, wear and tear on the automobile. Because the cost, the fare of riding public transportation has been raised because it's become a miserable experience, people may decide, I don't care if you give this away to me, I'm still driving in my car. What if the train doesn't get you to work on time? What if the bus is perpetually late? You're late on Wednesday, you're late on Thursday, and your boss tells you, if you're not here on time tomorrow, don't bother coming in Monday. She or he is not offering you a 3-day weekend. They're telling you, you better find a better way to get here besides public transportation. So the fare, the cost of riding the train can be raised in many ways. The worst case scenario, what happens if riders all of a sudden believed riding public transportation was dangerous? God forbid there was a terrorist attack in the New York City subway system. New York could make the price tag free for riding trains, and people would decide, It's not worth it. It's not safe. We saw this after COVID. Ridership on public transportation went down exponentially because people were afraid that in crowded, congested situations, there was much higher chance of contracting the dreaded disease. Statement number 6. The more useful a good, the higher its price. That seems like it should be true. This idea actually perplexed Adam Smith, and he wrote about it extensively in The Wealth of Nations. He referred to it as the diamonds to water paradox. What cost more, diamonds or water? Obviously, diamonds are extremely expensive. What is more useful? Obviously, 60% of our body is water, and water has practical applications in many economic production activities. Diamonds are basically useless. There may be some small application when using them in a specific cutting tool, but other than diamond-tipped saws, there's no economic rationale for purchasing a diamond. But the price of a good or service is determined by the market forces of demand and supply, not how useful a good or service happens to be. Statement number 7 and statement number 8. David Ricardo, an economist who wrote extensively on international trade, voluntary exchange, and the idea of what's called comparative advantage. Economists are huge proponents of voluntary trade. Statements number 7 and 8 explain why economists believe that specialization in trade is beneficial to individuals involved in the exchange. Statement number 7. If someone makes an economic gain, someone else loses. This may sound true initially, but it is absolutely false. Economics is not a zero-sum game. I'm not made better off at your expense. Let's consider the scenario of Lucy, the lawyer, and Adam, the administrative assistant, to explain how and why statement number 7 is false, and to introduce the magic of comparative advantage through voluntary trade. Economics is not a zero-sum game. When one person makes an economic advantage, someone else does not necessarily lose. The anecdote of Lucy the lawyer and Adam the administrative assistant will be utilized to demonstrate why this is false, employing the economic concept of comparative advantage. Lucy is the most talented defense attorney in the city of Philadelphia. Any criminal gets themselves in hot water should hire a talented attorney like Lucy. However, her services do not come cheap. Lucy charges $2,000 per hour for her litigation services. Lucy works 8 hours per day, but in addition to her litigation services, she also needs to have all the paperwork and administrative services complete and in line when she needs to go to court. So Lucy currently spends 7 hours per day litigating for clients, charging them $2,000 per hour, and dedicates 1 hour per day to tackle all the administrative assistant services that need to be accomplished. Lucy is not only the most talented lawyer in the city, she can also outpace anyone in terms of administrative services. What she can accomplish in 1 hour, it would take a normal administrative assistant 8 hours to complete. The question is, should Lucy hire Adam the assistant to perform the administrative assistant duties? Currently, Lucy is earning $14,000 per day, $2,000 per hour, 7 hours of her 8-hour day litigation services, and 1 hour where she's not getting paid to take care of all the administrative services. Let's consider the idea of specialization trade through comparative advantage by hiring Adam the administrative assistant. When someone makes an economic gain, someone else loses, and this is false. Lucy is the most talented lawyer in the city. Lucy is also exponentially better at administrative duties. However, it still makes sense for Lucy to hire an administrative assistant, even though she is absolutely better at both tasks. How can this be? Well, let's look at the math. Lucy decides to hire Adam, the administrative assistant. It's going to take Adam 8 hours to complete the administrative tasks that she formerly completed in 1 hour. 8 hours, $50 an hour. Adam makes an economic gain of $400 per day. However, through specialization in trade, both parties are made better off. Lucy is now free to charge clients 8 of the 8 hours per day. The 1 hour that she formerly had to dedicate to administrative services, where she wasn't earning any money because she wasn't charging clients, there's an additional $2,000 in revenue per day. Minus the $400 she has to pay Adam for his administrative assistant, Lucy is made better off by $1,600. The idea is that through specialization and trade, both parties concentrate their economic efforts into the task in which they enjoy what Ricardo referred to as a comparative advantage. This mathematical example proves that it is not true that one person is made better off at someone else's expense. Economics is not a zero-sum game. Statement number 8. If one nation produces everything better than another nation, there is no economic reason for the two nations to trade. Why is statement 8 false? Statement number 8 is false for the same economic rationale that statement number 7 is false, comparative advantage. Statement number 7 is a small scale or microeconomic example of comparative advantage. Statement number 8 is a larger picture macroeconomic example of comparative advantage. Consider the United States and China in the early 1990s. After World War II, under Mao Zedong, China adopted a communist isolationist economic policy with abysmal results. In 1978, the Chinese leadership decided to re-emerge from their economic hibernation and embrace global international trade. In the early 1990s, the United States was far superior at producing all products relative to China. The United States had an absolute advantage in producing everything. However, China is still rich in labor. It made sense for the United States to concentrate its economic efforts in producing capital-intensive economic production, such as finance and semiconductors, all things with advanced technology, and to allow China to produce labor-intensive manufacturing, such as linens and clothing. Both nations were made better off by concentrating their limited or scarce resources into producing products in which they enjoyed a comparative advantage. Final two statements. Statement number 9 examines economics as it relates to the business world. Statement number 10 explores economics as a social science and the concept of consumer sovereignty. Statement number 9. A non-regulated monopoly charges the highest possible price. First, what is monopoly? Monopoly, situation in which one firm dominates the industry. One producer is manufacturing a product or service for which there is significant demand and no close substitutes. Dominant firm in the industry, non-regulated, means that the company can charge whatever price they wish. A regulated monopoly is a situation in which the government has intervened and decided what price companies are permitted to charge, similar to your local utilities, sometimes referred to those as natural monopolies. Think of Microsoft in the 1990s. In the early 1990s, Microsoft had not yet come under regulatory scrutiny. Microsoft, the dominant player, Microsoft controlled 94% of the computer industry in terms of operating systems. When Microsoft was introducing its new operating system, which was at that time going to revolutionize operating systems, Windows 95, what price did it decide to charge for its product/service? Well, there were super enthusiastic computer individuals and companies who would have paid $1,000 for the software or a copy of the software. But Microsoft ultimately chose a price of less than $100, $98. Why was this the case? Microsoft was out to maximize total revenue, not make the highest possible per unit profit. So even a non-regulated monopoly would adhere to the law of demand in an effort to maximize profit. The last statement, most businesses don't care about consumers, they just want higher profits. Adam Smith introduced the idea of consumer sovereignty when explaining markets. Consumer sovereignty refers to the idea individuals visit stores, households decide where to spend their disposable income. It is the decision of individuals and households making their voluntary choice on what goods and services maximize their utility that drives the flow of resources. In the Adam Smith version of reality, businesses are rewarded for producing products and or providing services which maximize the happiness, satisfaction, gratification, utility of the customer. Think of reviews on Amazon. Think of the service of Yelp when you visit a restaurant. That is the idea of consumer sovereignty. Businesses must be aware of their customers and must follow the mandate to serve their customers. Otherwise, they won't be in business very long. Thank you for participating in the Do You Think Like an Economist exercise. Look forward to interacting with you in future videos.